podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
I understand why he's turning a blind eye to everything, because he was turning his blind eye when he was getting injected with bloody blood samples or whatever else it was that was helping him perform better and doing all the Lance Armstrong settings. So yeah,
I'm not sure if that even allegedly needs to be put on that, but just in case, allegedly.
He got found for it.
Welcome back to the Social Media Derby. We've got a great episode lined up for you today, but before we get into everything, let's just do our usual. So for those of you watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, like the video and share if you can. Remember also to comment down below if you have any questions or if you want us to talk about anything specific. And then for those of you listening on any kind of podcasting platform, whether it's Spotify, Apple or anything else, please follow and give us a 5-star review if you can. All right, let's get into it. I mean, we've got a couple of Man United games to review and an Arsenal game to review, so we'll get straight into things. But before I do that, Ant, how you doing, mate?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Chilling. Back from our trip to Dortmund for your birthday, so that was good.
Yeah.
We've got some behind the scenes footage we'll put out during the week, I guess, on socials or whatever. But yeah, how about you? You're the one who's been travelling everywhere. How are you doing?
Yeah, mate, not too bad. Just got back home last night, absolutely knackered. Couldn't get a bloody taxi from the airport for ages as well, which is great. So, yeah, not doing too bad now, at least that I'm home.
Yeah. Back home and safe and sound. But you enjoyed Milan, yeah?
Yeah, not too bad. Just not really looking forward to what's going to happen tomorrow. So, but anyway, let's get into the games. We'll do a quick little review. Obviously, it's been some time since the FA Cup fourth round, but obviously Man United played the big, mighty Newport County away, I believe it was, and you came out of that game with a 4-2 victory. Let's quickly do a little review. Ant, how did you think that game went? You know, you happy to get through? What are your general feelings?
Yeah, so we weren't able to watch it, were we? Because we were obviously in Germany for the Dortmund game. It was a clash. I think they were going on at the same time. But so we were kind of just watching the live score come in. I've watched the game back since, and yeah, it wasn't the best game ever. And it looked quite comfortable at 2-0. And a lot of the predictions and chat we made last week, I think a lot of the skepticism I had looked like it was probably going to be a little bit too negative. But yeah, they score a wonder goal, 2-1 at half time, and we do pretty much what we always do and what we've done against Wolves in the latest game as well yesterday, or the day before yesterday, sorry, and just go into absolute safety mode and start wibbling and wobbling and concede a really poor goal. Gets it back to 2-2, and then you go, oh my God, we're going to be the giant that gets killed by a League Two lower league team in such embarrassing fashion, to go 2-0 up away. To basically be cruising, and we were playing okay at that point to give up a 2-goal lead against, I don't know, part-time farmers and bloody dentists and, I don't know, parking ticket officers or whatever they are. Like, to go 2-0 back to 2-2 and look shaky like we did is pretty disgraceful. But yeah, in the end, we managed to score a couple of goals late in the second half. I think Højlund scored in injury time to make it look a bit more respectable, but yeah, it wasn't a great game at all. I can only think of 3 or 4 players that played relatively well and deserve any sort of credit. I think Bruno was pretty good. I think Kobbie Mainoo was really good as well. I think Antony actually looked decent in that game, came out with a goal and assist. I mean, he didn't play, amazing. It wasn't what you'd expect of an £85 million winger, but he at least did better than he has been recently. But yeah, just one for us to get past and just not look back and dwell on too much, because otherwise it will seriously make me depressed. But yeah, what did you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't, obviously, as you said, didn't watch it live, but I mean, a lot closer than it probably should have been given the status of the two teams. As you kind of said, Bruno really come at that game with the most confidence, I guess. Obviously, Mainoo is good. I know you lot are going real hard on him now, so I'll give him his props. But yeah, Casemiro and Varane, the two, I guess, most, I guess you could say they're the most renowned in that team, right? Despite the fact that obviously you've got other good players in that team, but they're kind of the most experienced, most decorated. The fact that they really come out of the game looking the worst is a weird one. Maybe that's the whole kind of English football thing, playing against a Newport County, like a really low league team. Maybe that's where they aren't experiencing that kind of situation. But yeah, generally speaking, I think Newport County gave a good account of themselves, gave you a bit of, a hairy time. But generally speaking, I think you just got to be happy with the win and let's get through to the next round. It's probably your only chance of getting any kind of silverware this year. So let's keep positive and see if you can come out of the fifth round, I guess, with some sort of. I guess who have you got in the draw? Has the draw been done yet?
The draw has been done, but I think we're waiting on a replay.
Interesting.
So we'll know who we're playing. I think next week, midweek. I think is the FA Cup fourth round replay round of fixtures. So we'll know exactly who we're playing. But I think it's either Bristol City or Nottingham Forest away. So
I hope you get Nottingham Forest away. That would be great.
I mean, Forest away, we've already lost there this season. They gave you a decent game. I mean, before this away fixture against Forest, we hadn't lost to them for, I don't know, like 6 or 7 games or something. We had a pretty good record against them. But with the form we've been in recently and a big FA Cup fifth round game, you'd much prefer to go to Bristol City. But either way, I think we haven't got the worst draw. So it still gives us a good opportunity. We should be getting through that game, whoever we play. But yeah, it'll probably be a little bit more difficult if we have to play Forest away. But let's see how it goes. Let's just bank this 4-2 and move on and focus back on the Premier League, where we obviously not in the greatest position. We still got a lot of work to get to a respectable league position in the league. So yeah, let's focus on that for the moment.
Yeah, I mean, one last thing before we move on to kind of the Premier League games is obviously you saw the backup goalkeeper, Alton Deer, right? Played in that game against Newport County. Bayindir, sorry. Played in that game against Newport County. It must be, obviously everybody has been waiting to see a little bit of him because obviously Onana's been really holding down the spot with his biscuit wrists. So what did you make of him just briefly? Do you want to see him come on more? I obviously didn't watch the full game live, so didn't really see if he made any clangers or anything else like that. But what did you make of him quickly before we move on?
It's a hard one because he obviously hasn't. This is literally his first minutes he's ever played for the club. I don't think he got any time on the pitch in pre-season or anything like that. So it's literally his first game for us overall, and he probably has never come across that type of game like you were talking about. Varane and Casemiro struggling a bit potentially because of that factor. But I imagine for Bayindir, he's also, he's not going to be used to that kind of small ground FA Cup fixture, League Two. I don't even know how many leagues they've got in Turkey, but I'm guessing they probably only have like 2 or 3, like most countries do. They don't necessarily have like the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever we do in step 12 or whatever it's called, that go all the way down. So it was probably an interesting experience. I mean, Newport's first goal, I don't know how much he can do about that. That was like a wonder strike that not many goalies would be able to do anything about anyway. So it's more a case of his just his overall play, which I thought looked okay. I don't think he looked terrible, but I think the bar's on the ground because of how Onana's been playing. And interestingly enough, I've obviously got a few Turkish friends, and I spoke to them about him and like what his reputation is back home, and they basically said he's like the Turkish Onana. So he's pretty expansive on the ball, but he throws absolute stinkers and clangers in. So it's hilarious. We've got potentially 2 very similarly calamitous goalies coming in and out of goal, depending on the situation. So I don't think he had the worst game, but I don't think he like showed any bright sparks of anything positive. I think And you saw with the Wolves game, as soon as Onana's back, he's back in goal. So I don't think it really matters at all what goes on with Bayindir. I think he's just there to make up numbers.
Yeah, I mean, that totally makes sense. It's obviously not great for you guys to have two of the exact same goalkeepers when you're trying to see if there's another style of play that will work. But I mean, with Onana in mind, let's get onto the United game against Wolves. Obviously, you kind of alluded to some of it already. Away match 4-3 in the end, so the scoreline makes it look like it was an absolute humdinger, and I think you'll agree that it probably was. In a bad way, I guess, for you guys. You would probably want to perform a little bit better than you did, but obviously you were up at multiple points in that game. Mainoo's come through at the end and really saved you as a team. But what did you make of the overall performance? What did you make of the individual performances? Do you think Wolves deserve something from that game? Do you think Man United kind of just gave it to them to get them back into the game? What are your general thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've been here with United so many times this season, probably mostly in the Champions League, where I think we've had the most topsy-turvy games. I think in the league, we've generally either scraped wins or got spanked a few times, or, lost tight games. There hasn't been too many high-scoring affairs in the league from us anyway. It's primarily been in the Champions League where you saw the 3-3 Galatasaray, 4-3 Bayern Munich, 3-2 Galatasaray, 4-3 Copenhagen. All of those kind of crazy scores came about in the Champions League. And to be honest, this game was really reminiscent of that Copenhagen game where we actually lost 4-3 in the end, where Rashford got sent off because we went up 2 goals pretty early on in the first half. It looked all very comfortable. And we go in at half-time 2-0 thinking, you know what, we're doing okay here. The same story, though, in terms of our, wastefulness up in front of goal. Honestly, we should have been 4 or 5 goals up at halftime. We had so many chances, poor final balls, poor decision-making, or poor finishing. Like, pretty much all of those factors were at play. Højlund had, umpteen chances. Bruno had umpteen chances. I think even Varane had a swing at a goal from, about 15 yards out, which he put over the bar. Like, there's no way we should have been going in 2-0 up. We should have been 4-5-0 up going in at half time. But when you're at that kind of stage, the way we've been playing and kind of like the mental side of things of our players, we don't have the resilience to hold leads. Like, I saw someone on Twitter saying, United haven't had a 3-0 or a 3-1 or a 4-1 comfortable win this whole season. Even the games that we've won by 2 clear goals, they've been tight games where we've maybe scored a couple of late goals to seal the game or something like that. We've never had any kind of comfortable victories. And 2-0, all it takes is one bad decision, one fluky coming in off someone's ass, one wonder strike, something like that. It only takes a few of those moments to swing the game. And unfortunately, this was the former. We haven't done ref watch for a little bit, but I think we might need to, because that was absolutely not a penalty. There's no world that that's a penalty. Casemiro literally makes no contact, if not like the only contact he makes is pulling his foot away from Neto's foot. And that was the softest penalty you ever see given. I don't even think you could say going by the letters of the law or how the referees have been doing it this season, because in that Liverpool game on the Wednesday against Chelsea, Van Dijk literally kicked someone's shins full on twice, and there were no penalty given, went to VAR, stick with the on-field decision. This time, Casemiro doesn't even make contact, or if he does make contact, he literally brushes him with the side of his boot, doesn't actually make full-on contact like Van Dijk had done. And suddenly it's again, let's uphold the referee's decision on field, which was wrong. It should never have been a penalty. But the penalty comes, Sarabia tucks it away, goes down the middle, and then it starts to get a little bit tasty. I know we scored again after that, very swiftly after that. I think McTominay headed one down into the roof of the net in the end, and we went 3-1 up. But it's that was the first domino of us kind of losing a bit of stability. And then, I have to say, Wolves did really well for the next 20 minutes after McTominay's goal, put us under a lot of pressure. I don't think we, again, going back to, remember we talked about the Tottenham game with our set piece defending, did not defend that set piece well. I think we win the first header, but the person flicks it back into the danger zone, into the penalty area. Dawson bangs one into the ground, it bounces up, and then Kilman manages to get to it, and somehow Onana forgets that he's allowed to use his arms and tries to throw his shoulder at it instead of actually just patting it away with his right hand. And it's 3-2, things start to get a bit tetchy. And yeah, the equalising goal, I don't know what's going on tactically, why we have every single player in their half of the field when we're 3-2 up in the 95th minute or whatever it is with 5 minutes left. You just want to see it out, surely. But we decide to do that. And then also we decide we're going to, Antony's going to run into a crowded midfield with no idea of what he's going to do, give up the ball, and we're suddenly at 6s and 7s. And then, yeah, fair dues to Wolves. Their counter-attack was swift. Neto, I mean, it was a good strike. Question marks about why Onana's not able to do anything, or he doesn't even move. He doesn't even dive. Fair enough. I'm not saying he could have saved it if he did dive, because Neto wrong-footed him and put it pretty much in the corner, going the opposite way. But there's something about when a goalie just stays rooted to the ground and doesn't even react that just gets my goat. You have to be able to anticipate things and start moving in the right direction. And yeah, I have to be honest, I was sitting on the couch, I was livid, but I was so livid that I was silent. I was just sitting there in silence, absolutely losing my mind, thinking we've thrown this away. We've had so many chances. We should have been 4 or 5-0 up in the first half. We've conceded, the ref screwed us, we've been sloppy, and then boom, Kobbie Mainoo steps up, does an absolute mazza, nutmegs Kilman, shimmies another defender, and then tucks it in the bottom corner, and somehow we've won the game. Yeah, man, my heart can't keep up with these type of United results. We need to try and settle down. 1-0 to United, just try and simplify things. You remember back in the days when we got hammered by a team, or we had a set of results like this where there was loads of goals, Fergie used to just say, look, you guys, we're not going to play attractive football for the next 5 to 10 games. We're going to basically S-house it for these next 5 to 10 games and just win 1-0. Score a goal, shut up shop, and defend well. That's what would happen, right? We're not capable of doing that, but that's what I'm craving at the moment. When some people are out there online, on content creators or whatever, saying, oh, United need to have a style of play, I want to see sexy football, all this stuff. Nah, I just need us to be stable. Really, I need us to be stable. I don't want to have these high scoring 4-3s, 3-3s, lose 3-2, all this kind of stuff. We've had 5 or 6 of those results this season, and we're about not even 2/3 through. So yeah, man, I'm overall happy that we got the 3 points, but I'm not happy with the result, and I'm not happy with the performance at all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you touched on a few different things there. I want to try and zone in on a couple of them. So obviously with the Neto penalty, let's start there, right? So I can't remember off the top of my head which penalties they were, but there's been a couple of circumstances recently, I'd say probably in the last maybe 6 weeks, where a similar kind of thing has happened where a defender is running back this way, the attacker kind of cuts back in the opposite direction, and the defender that's running back kind of sticks a leg out, barely touches the person, and then the person goes straight down. And it's been given in a couple of different games, probably over the last 6 weeks, 2 months. And to be honest with you, I've always thought that they weren't really penalties because for the most part, the attacker kind of acts like their whole legs have been swept, right? And we've seen it happen genuinely a few times where a trailing defender just leaves a leg out and kind of sweeps away the attacker's legs. Obviously, I think there's been about 3 of them, including this one, where we've seen, very minimal contact and then the attacker goes straight down. Do you think that there is maybe the league or the referees, the PGMOL have kind of said to everybody, this is something that happens a lot, we need to punish this? Or do you think this is just simply if it's been given or not given on field, they just kind of stick with whatever the rule is?
I think it's the latter. I don't think they're trying to get a consistent viewpoint on these type of challenges. I think what they're saying is we're going to give the referee autonomy to decide on a case by case basis, and when it goes to VAR, unless they've made an absolute howler, and I mean like really wolf howling type level mistake, we're just going to leave it, which is pointless. Like, you need to take a stance on this. It can't just be a lottery. Because I would agree with you. There have been some that have been given, but literally, we'll make the point. On Wednesday, Van Dijk didn't even, it wasn't minimal contact. He fully kicked through players twice, and they went to VAR and upheld the decision on the field, which was no penalty. Like, surely you need to have some, there's a spectrum of this where I agree with you. There's no contact whatsoever, and then there's contact, but there's the levels of contact. So there's brushing someone, actually making contact with them to a certain degree. There's absolutely swiping and taking them out. I think the Van Dijk ones were all on that full-on contact to taking them out level. And the Casemiro one, I can't remember some of the other ones you're talking about that have been given, but I agree that from general memory, this isn't a new thing that's been happening. There's been other incidents, right? There are many incidents which have been on the very, very lower end of the gradient on that scale, where there's been either no contact, or it looks like there might have been a slight brushing of foot onto another person's shin or something like that, or foot or whatever. And it's been given. I'll give you an example. One I can remember, Bruno against Wigan. Yeah. The player very minimally steps on his toe. Minimally. Doesn't stomp on his whole foot or anything like that. Just minimally steps on his big toe. He drops like a sack of potatoes. The ref gives it. There's no VAR. But my understanding is, based on all of these recent decisions, if there was VAR, they would have just gone with the decision anyway of the ref, right? That's the only trend we can see, is that the ref's decision on field gets followed. So I don't believe that type of challenge, and I said it at the time, right? Like, that type of challenge should be a penalty. And you said it too. Like, that's so soft that there is, and now it's been proven that it's not just they get given those type, because what the hell happened to Van Dijk's one? If any contact can get given, then give them. Then fair enough. I can be livid about this, but then all of those, you look at the track record and will say they've all been given. What can you do? That's just how it is. It's soft, but that's how it is. But it's not. It's just it's totally down to ref's discretion.
And this is kind of where I'm trying to get at, right? Is that I think the PGMOL has these meetings with their referees and says, you know what, last weekend, this kind of thing, in this situation, something happened, it was wrong. Let's try and focus on not letting that kind of thing happen again. And I didn't see the Van Dijk, the two swipes that he had where he hit people. If they were in the same circumstances, then I'll completely take my point back. But I've definitely seen a pattern of, the attack, as I described before, the attacker kind of going one way, pulling back. The defender that's coming past is too slow, doesn't manage to get back in time, leaves a trailing leg out, gets a very brief touch, and it's a penalty given. Obviously, the attacker goes down like a sack of potatoes. To me, I feel like, the Bruno one, for example, I think there was one maybe 1 week after that, and I think it might have been from Chelsea, where they also got a penalty for a very similar circumstance. And now we've obviously seen this one as well with Neto. So to me, like, what I'm getting at really is I feel like the PGMOL has review meetings after like certain bad decisions are given, and they say, hey guys, focus on this part of the play. If you see this thing happen again, give it or don't give it or whatever else. Let's try and fix the mistake. And so when you see other circumstances that are the same contact or more, that aren't necessarily in the exact same situation I'm describing, they kind of just, it's out of their head because they haven't been told to focus on it. So that's kind of the thing I'm getting at, is that I've noticed these patterns where a certain mistake is made, and then for 3-4 weeks after that, it seems like all the referees start trying to really be harsh on that, or go the opposite way. So that's kind of what I'm getting at. I don't know. Maybe the Van Dijk circumstance was exactly the same and just wasn't given. But does that kind of resonate with you? Do you think that the PGMOL is like saying, hey guys, look at this specific problem that we keep having and focus on this one? Because another one is like the whole goalkeeping thing, right? And I'm not going to bring it up as if it should have been a penalty, but Onana did kind of like punch Kilman in the head before Lissandro got one off the line, right? He's done it a couple of times earlier, or he's done it once earlier. I won't give him too many, but we've seen other goalkeepers knock people out for no reason as well, and somehow get away with it quite frequently. There doesn't appear to be any change being made there. It's almost as if the PGMO or MOL have just said, it's okay. If a goalkeeper knocks someone out, it's totally fine. But do you see what I'm getting at? As if like there are certain things that are much more contact that are never given, and then some things that are very minimal contact in the exact same circumstances that just are now being given over and over again, even if I disagree with them.
Now, I hear your logic, but if you watch the Van Dijk ones, that throws it all out the window. Like, you need to see them. If you see the two Van Dijk ones, it's not one, it's two in the same game, and they're both stonewall penalties. The contact is way firmer than any of the ones we've just called out, where you're saying maybe it's a refereeing guideline they've tried to implement off the back of some bad decisions. I think you're probably right, but then how can it still be so sporadic and still so much of a lottery that you don't know whether or not you're going to get given it? Like, it needs to be 100% the rule, like, and then everyone applies it to everyone, and that's fine. Like the Onana one, I get what you're saying, but I think they acknowledged the initial Wolves one where he came out and knocked like Craig Dawson's lights out and absolutely took people out as being the, that's the line which they needed to draw in the sand. If that kind of goalkeeping incident happens, and that should be a penalty and a yellow card or red card or whatever. I think this Onana one was a little bit tamer. It's more of the one we're kind of used to goalies getting away with, where if a ball's up in the air, the player wins the header, the goalie comes to try and claim it, misses it, and maybe takes a player out. It's like the play continues because he hasn't like knocked him out before the player got to the ball. Kilman managed to get his head on it. Then Onana, he's like completely mistimed the ball and collided with him. That's like someone getting a shot off, and then like the challenge comes in, misses the ball, and kind of like takes them out after the ball's gone. You don't normally see fouls get given for that, like retrospectively, right? It's normally like the play's moved on and they leave it. So I don't know about
they might pull
thing.
someone back up out and like give them a yellow card, right? For example, you've seen that happen sometimes, but usually the foul doesn't necessarily get given. But the weird circumstance really is that we see so frequently outside of the penalty box, things get given. Inside of the penalty box, they don't. The same kind of problem, right? Like we were talking about before.
Criteria.
Exactly, and we talked about it before, right? With was it Rodri who got a penalty against you guys, right?
Yeah,
I can't remember. Yeah, Højlund dragged him back, right? Anywhere outside of the box, that happens. I mean, that happens even inside the box a lot of times and doesn't get given really for anything. And then we see inside the box it does. So I'm just trying to gauge like off the ball incidents that are outside of the box that don't involve a goalkeeper. Apparently, you get punished for them, right? Whether it's a foul or if it's a yellow card or whatever else it is. But inside the box with the goalkeeper involved, he can knock somebody out. I get it's not. It shouldn't be a penalty if it's after the ball, if it's after the header's gone. But should there not be some sort of punishment if a guy, even if it is off the ball, is knocking someone out off the ball?
No, I do think so, but I think then that comes back into the same consideration outside of the penalty box, where if a player's going for the ball, right? Like if you get caught by an elbow or something, right, when you go up for headers, you don't always see the referee give red cards or yellow cards if you believe the player was going for the ball, right? Like if it's an egregious one where you see the elbow get pulled back and then crack with the pointy part of your elbow, sometimes you do see serious,
unless it's Bruno G and then he just gets away with slapping people and headbutting.
Well, I mean, Bruno G gets away with them. Exactly. He gets away with them. He's forearming, punching Jorginho, doing whatever. I don't think Onana. I literally think he mistimed it. Right, like, but I'm not.
Yeah, I don't think there was any bad intent. I don't think he's trying. Even with the first one earlier in the season, I don't think he was trying to do it. I'm just trying to figure out, like, is it just allowed, or should it just be allowed that a goalkeeper can go for the ball and just knock someone out off the after the ball's gone, and it's just okay.
I mean, the first one, that one should have been a pen. I think we all looked at that afterwards and went, "Wow, we got away with that." United fans are like, "We got away with that," because it was like contesting the ball. Dawson was going to get his head on it, and he just came and like Zangiefed him and like just absolutely clapped him. Right, whereas the second one, that's like a classic.
It was a light brush. It was just a jab to the head.
Yeah, this one he was trying to punch the ball, and like his I think he actually didn't actually crack him in the head with his arm, but he
it was more like a chest,
body,
I think.
his body, like when he was going for it, followed through and hit it, but Kilman had already headed the ball. But yeah, anyway, we've gone off the original penalty incident, which I think is I mean, we just need some common sense given to these referees, and they need to understand, and we need to get given more power or autonomy to the VARs to be able to make tough calls. Because I'm sorry, they've got to be able to just say, sorry, mate, whoever you are. I can't remember who the ref was, but I don't think you've got that right. And Jared, you screwed it, man. And I'm sorry, we're gonna have to say that's not a pen, and we're gonna have to keep it moving. Like, and I don't think it can be. You just can't see. What really hurts is you see two incidents, not just one, right? Two incidents the day before, which are worse, not get given, and then you see something so tame get given, and then almost completely flips the whole game, our game on its head.
As a result, yeah.
And we got lucky that we still won it, because otherwise, this pod would be swearing laden, and you'd be working overtime on the editing, because I'd be livid if we didn't win that game.
Yeah, I mean, but all right, I get what you're saying. I definitely agree. I think obviously the refereeing has been a shambles this season in general. So I mean, it's just kind of par for the course at this point.
Watch the Van Dijk ones, and then we'll talk about it again.
All right. Well, all right. Let's get on to another topic. Obviously, just probably the last topic we'll hit on this one. It's been in the news cycle for a while now. Obviously, old Marcus Rashford went and had some fun in Dublin. And I
Northern
Ireland. Sorry, he's in Belfast. Yeah, he went and had some fun in Belfast. And obviously, it's been handled internally. I think there's rumours that he's been fined a couple of weeks' wages or something. Ten Hag's come out and just said, we handle it internally. It's all fine. It's put to bed now. Rashford's obviously, done what he probably should be doing, coming back on the pitch, right, with the first goal. A nice bit of build-up play, a great finish. What did you make of Rashford's kind of on-field response? Do you really see this being put to bed? And do you want to just move on now? I've seen people talking about, it's probably Rashford's time. It's getting close to it. He's taking the mick a bit now. But what did you just generally make of his kind of on-pitch response, and where do you think we go from here?
Yeah, I thought he played well, at least for the first 55, 60 minutes. I think he petered out in the second half. And I think the decision to take him off was a good one. I wouldn't have taken him off for Antony, but taking him off generally was the right call. It's been a real tricky thing to assess, to be honest, because there seems to just be two really extreme opinions about this Rashford situation. One is basically punish him severely. Ten Hag needs to be strong and have a hard line against this type of behaviour, and then look to potentially sell him in the summer if his attitude doesn't change and if his performances don't radically improve. And then the other side has been kind of player FC. No, we need to get behind him, support him. He's a local lad. Ten Hag's all that kind of stuff. The whole angle, blame the manager instead of the player stuff. And to be honest, I just sit somewhere in between. Like, it's obvious that he's going through something, right? Like, we talked about it extensively with Sancho last season when Ten Hag was quite understanding with him. And I think it was widely publicised that he was having problems off the field. It's quite obvious Rashford's having problems off the field. His behaviour this year, it doesn't ring true with his behaviour in any other season in his career so far. He's I know there was the stuff last season where he was a minute late for one of the meetings and he was on the bench, incidentally, again, away at Wolves. But this season there have been umpteen different things, right? Like, there's been what was the other thing he had earlier in the season? Earlier in the season he had an incident where he
went out after you guys lost to City.
Yeah, he went to China White and had his birthday party after we got slapped at home against City. Which he got in trouble for. Obviously now calling in sick and then being caught out, getting absolutely mullered in Belfast picking up questionable bar ladies, all kinds of stuff, hitting every single red top in the land. Yeah, there's some things going on. Obviously, the stuff with his brother. I think didn't his brother get outed for potentially sexually assaulting a woman in America or something? Was arrested. Like there's all kinds of stuff that's going on. There's all these rumors that he's very close to Sancho, and the whole Sancho thing's heavily affected him as well. Like there's so many things that are bouncing around the media about Rashford's personal life and things not being so great. So there's obviously something going on. So I trust whatever Ten Hag does, the same way I trusted him with the Sancho situation, and didn't go out there and say, Sancho has a right of reply and all this, that people came out with off the back of the Sancho situation. Don't get me wrong, Ten Hag has made serious mistakes on the pitch, tactically, substitutions, things that he was really good at last season have really gone downhill this season. So I think when you need to scrutinise him as a manager, as a coach, I think that's fine. But when it comes to his decision making around building a culture and setting up rules and regulations for the teams to follow, I don't have a problem with how he handles that. Do I think he's the most inspiring character? Do I think that if I was to be managed by him, he would propel me to do really amazing things because of how emotive and how good he is as a people person? Probably not. He's quite stiff. He's a little bit robotic, but I don't necessarily think he's a bad person or a bad guy when it comes to dealing with people's personal problems, right? He's been very understanding of quite a lot of our players when they've had off the field dramas. Maybe too understanding, right? If we look at Antony, if we look at the rumors,
that would
stuff
be
around
where
Greenwood,
I'd ask you, though, is like how many more of these can not Rashford get away with, but I mean, does there not need to be like an escalation of the punishment at some point?
Well, this is the thing. We don't know what his punishments were before. We don't know what his punishment was when he went out for the China White birthday thing. We don't know what his exact punishments were for missing or being slightly late to the team meetings last season. We kind of only know what the match on field punishment has been, was that he was dropped to the bench for that being slightly late. I believe he missed the game off the back of the Man City incident. And then Ten Hag has said that he was in line to play against Newport and missed that as a punishment off the back of this. And then apparently he's been fined 2 weeks' wages off the back of this as well. So to me, that might be an escalation, right? Because we don't know what his previous punishments were. We don't know what Ten Hag's system is.
Is it a big enough escalation?
Players. This is the thing.
Do you think it's a big enough one?
Some fans are out here saying he should have missed this game as well. He should potentially miss also the West Ham game this weekend. But that's not really for us to decide. Like, I don't know what the conversations were between Rashford and Ten Hag off the back of the incident. Maybe they had a heart-to-heart. Maybe that's the reason why Ten Hag is taking a different approach. One thing he did say, which I do agree with, but I've seen other people kind of say that Ten Hag's full of rubbish about, is this. I think he was asked in a press conference, what's the difference between this Rashford situation and the Sancho one? Why have you treated them differently? And Ten Hag's words were, this was dealt with internally. Sancho decided to make his public. I actually understand that. And I agree with that. Because this idea that Ten Hag is not allowed to say something without the player responding is absolute rubbish. People need to understand, in a workplace, there's always like a line of hierarchy. The manager is responsible for the players. Because of that, he is higher up in the food chain than the players. The players may earn more money, they may be the stars or whatever, right? But in terms of who gets the ultimate praise and the ultimate punishment if the team doesn't do well, it's the manager. So the manager is allowed to say whether or not a player has trained well, performed well, or whatever in the public, in his press conferences, in his pre-match conferences or whatever. Of course, there's a level of respect. I don't believe you should necessarily go out and do what Mourinho did at times and like throw players under the bus and call them or whatever, right? I don't believe you need to go that far. But I do believe saying that someone hasn't trained very well and that's the reason why they're not in the squad is totally fine. That's totally fine. That's not personalizing anything. that's talking purely about your performance on the training pitch and on the pitch. I think the only thing that Sancho's got a leg to stand on is, there's obviously some favoritism stuff going on as well with Ten Hag, with Antony, who's performed if just as poorly, if not worse, and he still gets to play. But I believe they could have that conversation behind closed doors. Sancho doesn't need to go out on Twitter, and I've moaned about this before, and post his bloody iPhone notes calling Ten Hag basically a wally and saying that he's being scapegoated. So I do understand where Ten Hag coming from. I believe that Sancho would still be at the club if he didn't do that, and if they, thrashed it out behind closed doors and even argued with each other or whatever. I believe that they would have got to a better place. So I think there's some differences, and I feel like that's maybe why this Rashford thing has been handled differently. Am I reaching the end of my tether with Rashford in terms of his performances and his attitude? Sure. As a fan, I don't know how many lives he's got left in my eyes, right? Eventually he's going to run out because he hasn't looked like he gives a shit when he's been on the field. He hasn't been tracking back. He's performed badly, and now he's shown unprofessionalism. Or a lack of professionalism. So in my eyes as a fan, I understand why fans are on his back, but we've got to show some sort of trust and belief in what the manager's doing in managing them behind closed doors.
Do you think, obviously, the fact that Rashford is one of your better players, arguably your best player, plays into the fact that maybe he might not be seen to be as punished as heavily as someone else might?
Yeah, I'm sure that's a part. I just said before, Ten Hag's clearly got favourites. There's some players in that team that he favours more than others. A lot of them are his signings, to be fair, but I do believe Rashford's one of them as well. And I think there's various reasons. I believe even probably when Ten Hag was coming into that job interview before he got the job, it was probably told to him, you need to get the best out of Rashford. Rashford is our big star boy, our poster boy for the club. We need to have him playing well, and we need him to be the face of the team going forward. So you need to get the best of him. So I'm sure there's lots of reasons why he might be treating them differently and dealing with them differently. Do I agree with it from an ethical perspective? Probably not. You'd want your manager to treat everyone the same. But we know, going back to Fergie, going back to Wenger, going back to the big legendary managers, even probably Pep, there are some players that get treated differently. We know that as a fact, that they get treated differently, and there are reasons why they get treated differently. And I do believe a manager should have some sort of, just like the same as in our regular work,
it's
right?
based on talent, right?
But also personality. People
yeah,
react
no, of
to
course,
different
but I
types
think
of
it is
punishments
based off of
differently,
right. If they're good, if they're better in certain areas, they kind of get away with it, right? Like we saw in the Beckham documentary, he was definitely treated with kind of kid gloves a lot more than anybody else in that team was, because of the fact that he was Beckham and he could whip a ball in and get you assists and goals whenever he essentially wanted to. So we've seen it happen with managers in the past, right? We've seen managers have not even favourites, but just all right, you can get away with a bit more because you're better. And that's just the way of the world, essentially, right? We see that in the workplace too. So, I mean, from that point of view, that definitely, to me, is not a new thing. Do I agree with it 100%? Probably not. But at the same time, I understand why they've got to do it, because at the end of the day, it's about the performances of the team. You can have the most moral team you bloody want. If you're bottom of the league or mid-table when you're Man United, it doesn't really matter if everyone in your team is morally great, because the fans are not going to be happy regardless. So I certainly get all of that, and I get that. I believe that Rashford is probably being treated a little bit better because of the fact that he was unbelievable last season, was kind of one of the big reasons why you got where you were last season, right? I just think, I guess my main question is just how many more things can you do, right, before everyone is just fed up and kind of sick of it? I get that he's going through a lot. I understand that completely, right? We've seen that with other players before. But even at that point, clubs can't deal with all of it, right? As much as we'd love them to be able to deal with the mental health issues that people go through and be able to deal with all these things, at a certain point, they get sick of it and they say, you know what, we've tried our best with you. Unfortunately, it's not working out. No hard feelings. You got to go. I've just got to say, I've seen pundits and I guess YouTube commentators come out and say, if I get 75 million for Rashford, I'm selling him right now. Are you in that camp, or do you think, long term, if Rashford keeps doing what he's doing now, do you think he stays the kind of figurehead of your team?
I think it's hard to call. I don't agree with the idea just like sell him, get 65, 70 million. Certain that's definitely not enough. But I do agree with the idea that he can't just keep taking the piss, basically, right? Like he needs to sort himself out and eventually get his head back in the game. That's undeniable. And the club can't keep putting up with his shenanigans, right? Like he's going to have to sort himself out and he's going to have to play better on the pitch. And incidentally, if he probably plays better on the pitch and keeps banging in goals, if he's out doing a bit of, sowing his seeds in Manny or Belfast or whatever, Beirut or even whatever, I don't think the club's going to care if his on pitch performance is at the same level as last year or better, right? He's going to be given a little bit more of a bly if he does just perform on the pitch. I think the problem we're facing right now is a combination of two together means that people don't have much patience for him right now, and it's wearing really, really thin. So he's going to have to keep putting in performances like against Wolves or better, and start scoring more goals. Start looking like he's locked in, and he really cares about the club and the team. And if he does, then I think you'll find that everyone kind of gives him a bit of leeway because he's going to be performing well on the pitch. So he can't not do both. He has to do something.
He's got to do what,
he has to sort himself out. So
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I agree. I think the pitch performances will come first, right? Even if he's out doing madnesses, as long as he's performing on the pitch, it's okay. I mean that to a certain extent, obviously, right? Like if he starts getting into illegal territory, then we start getting a different story. But
of course.
I mean, a great example is Kyle Walker. We won't touch on that too much, but Pep's out here just like, you know what, do what you want off the pitch, man. As long as you keep tracking back and you can take down Vinny Jr., we don't really give a shit what you're doing off the pitch.
Pep's a cheeky one for that though, because let's not forget he was done for doping and all that kind of stuff as well as a player. So I understand why he's turning a blind eye to everything, because he was turning his blind eye when he was getting injected with bloody blood samples or whatever else it was that was helping him perform better and doing all the Lance Armstrong settings. So
I'm not sure if that even allegedly needs to be put on that, just in case. Allegedly,
he got found for it. He got found. He got found and banned for it. So it's not alleged that happened. Like
all right,
he got
confirmed,
found guilty.
Confirmed. Yeah.
But we can say allegedly if that covers our
legally, just in case. Yeah.
But wait, let's end the Man U segment because I've waffled too much on this. Last thing, Kobbie Mainoo is the truth. But I will say,
oh my God,
everyone needs to calm down. I did this with you guys with Saliba in a group chat, and I think it was valid for me to do that. Do I not think? I don't think that Saliba's not very well on his way to being world class. I do agree, but the same way the United fans are going big on Mainoo now, you lot were going big on Saliba very early as well. You've been proven that
you've done it way earlier. You've done it far earlier though.
With Mainoo,
Saliba was good for a longer time. You guys have completely left the fact that he he completely gave a goal away in a couple of games ago, right?
No.
This is probably his first real standout performance, and I've seen people saying that he's better than bloody Yaya Toure out here. I'm like, that's obviously legitimately mental.
No, that's obviously rubbish. Like all of these, I haven't seen the Yaya. I've seen the Makaleli one, which is also ridiculous. But no, the earliness is. I saw Saliba stuff after him in pre-season for you guys. He hadn't kicked an official ball for you guys, and people were out here saying he was going to be the second coming of Van Dijk. We've got idiot fans.
He's the thumbnail.
They do that.
Kobbie Mainoo is the thumbnail for every Man United's YouTube channel right now, man. He's on every single one of them. You guys are going ham.
Good for them. He's not even an attacking. He's not even an attacking midfielder. The fact that he did it the way he did it is absolutely stanky, and people when they see that. They know that we're not absolutely waffling. Of course, people are waffling when they say Yaya in comparisons. Like, that's way too early. He's not in world-class shouts. He's not in Euro team. I've seen him in alongside Basmati Rice in midfield for England at the Euros. All that stuff is waffle, right? But this isn't his first good performance. He's been doing really well. Like, he did have a clanger against West Ham. I agree. But even in that game, I thought he was okay. I don't think he had, terrible game. he let the ball roll under his foot, and sadly,
He's
Kudus
just
made
not
him
as
look like a plonker.
calamitous as the rest of your team right now, and it's a very low
But yeah,
bar to not
but
be
he
as
has.
calamitous as
I
everyone else.
I wouldn't even call that a calamity. I would say that kind of mistake happens in a game all the time. He sadly got punished for it very much immediately, straight after it happened. Right, we've got calamities, like you said, Maguire, Onana. We've got plenty of real dodgy dons
Stinkers.
that
Yeah, some right
we can say
stinkers, yeah.
absolutely stink up. McTominay, whatever. We've got a bunch of them, but Mainoo has looked he's looked really good in that midfield since he's come back from injury. And yesterday we finally saw the midfield that I was calling for, right, on a couple of pods back: Casemiro, Mainoo, and Bruno. And when those three were in that midfield, we looked good, man. Like, I honestly say, we looked very stable until the penalty decision came about, which I think was obviously unfair. We won't go back into that. I think we looked really stable. Soon after that, Casemiro got hooked, and we saw McTominay in there, and then that's when things started to go all over the shop,
Big
right?
sauce.
But back to Mainoo, like, I think, yeah, he's in big prospect territory.
Oh, wow.
But no more than that. No more than that. I think that's fair. Like, I'm not saying he's going to be world class. I'm not saying he's Makalele, Yaya Toure, anything like that. But what he does, he looks like he's going to be in our first team for a while, right? Like, I think he looks like the better prospect out of him and Garnacho, I would say.
So you really, I was
far.
literally just about to ask you that, right? So Garnacho, I think, has done far more.
No, he has
Mainoo
done more.
over
He has
a
done
longer period of time so far.
Yes.
Right, in an attack that is really hasn't been functioning for quite some time, right? So you really think that Mainoo is a bigger prospect than Garnacho?
No, but the key word there is prospect, right? Like, Garnacho could fulfill more of his potential and be a better player. That's totally possible.
But you guys were calling for Garnacho to get a Puskas award after the overhead kick, and Mainoo makes someone and passes one into the side of the side of the net, and then you lot are calling him a bigger prospect, man.
Yeah, the Puskas is about an individual goal. More.
But I'm just giving that as one example. He's shown far more over a longer period of time than you guys have. Than Mainoo has. And he's not a bigger prospect.
The key word there is in longer time. So let's see, when Mainoo has had more time in the first team, then I think it's probably a valid, then you'll have more evidence to say, okay, is it waffle or is it actually true? Mainoo's had like 7-8 games in the first team. Garnacho had 7 or 8 games last season, and plus he's had many appearances this season, and he's done really well. I'm not saying Garnacho is rubbish. I still think Garnacho will be a really good player. Do I think he's going to be like what people were saying at the beginning, like Ronaldo levels and all this stuff? Like, no chance. But I think he can be a good Premier League winger for us. And I think Mainoo could be a good midfielder for us. But I think from seeing what I've seen of Mainoo, it looks. I'm talking about the whole package. Like, Mainoo looks like he's got a bit more. He stays calmer on the ball. It looks like he's got a bit more IQ. You can't tell me when you watch Garnacho, right? Sometimes he just does stupid stuff. Like, he shows his age sometimes, right? Like, he either snatches at things, is a bit greedy.
I certainly agree with that. But I think Mainoo plays in a position that requires those things more. Like, Garnacho, of course, like being calm and composed and all that would be great. But it's something you typically don't see from young attackers, right? Højlund's also sometimes got a similar problem. Martinelli's had a similar problem. Saka's had a similar problem, right? Where they don't necessarily stay composed enough. When you're in the centre of midfield, I'd bloody expect you, even if you are a centre midfielder that's young, I'd expect you to show composure. But I'm not expecting him to do overhead kicks, right? So those are just, I think, two different things you'd expect from different positions. Of course, it would be great to have Garnacho with a lot more composure, but it would also be great to have Mainoo be able to, run through 15 people and then slot one into the back of the net, right? So, obviously he did that in the game with Wolves, right? He obviously did meg somebody, but I mean, I think Garnacho as a winger has a lot more of the tools from what you've seen to become a larger star. Now, obviously, I think Mainoo's good, and I think he could be really good. But for everyone to come out after, as you say, 7 or 8 games and say he's a bigger prospect is nuts. Like, surely you've got to show it over a longer period of time. Even if it is like on an average rating, maybe he could have a better one over 5, 6, 7 games. But if you've got like a 7 out of 10 over 100 games, or let's say 30 games, surely that's got to take into account the fact that you've done it for longer than Mainoo has. It's like the Jeremy Lin problem versus, somebody else. Like you've got to do it for a long enough period of time before you start becoming like, big prospect out here, surely.
Yeah, but I think I don't know what our definitions of prospect are. I think if you were to come out here and say Mainoo will be a better player, Mainoo will be all of this, like as a confirmation of their careers, I think that would be wild because they're both still prospects in my mind. Sure, Garnacho's had more games, but age-wise, I think they're about the same age. Mainoo might be like slightly younger. They're both in that young player of the what we talked about earlier, right? We both went for Garnacho as maybe being the young player of the season or something like that. Like he's still firmly in that category still. So I don't think it's a wild shout to say someone looks like a bigger prospect than him. But I think, sure, you're right. Garnacho's had more game time. He's done a lot for someone that age. And I still don't, I'm not like down on Garnacho stocks. I've seen some people say he's a bum and all this kind of stuff because recently he's been making some bad decisions and not, been in the best of form. I don't say that. I still think Garnacho is going to be a good player, a really good player. But I think, it could be incremental. I don't think Mainoo's going to be like some...
Do you think he's got like a higher ceiling? Is that what you're trying to say? You think,
like he looks like a bigger
ceiling?
Prospect. Yeah, I think he looks like he's got a bigger prospect. I think if he fulfills his potential, I think he could be like a Premier League leading midfielder, like in the top 5 in his position. If he fulfills everything and everything goes well, and he doesn't start going to Belfast and he doesn't start doing all that kind of stuff, right? Then I think it can work out for him. If Garnacho
he's your lots is Conor Bradley right now. Bloody hell! Has he got a Liverpool fan on the other end of this convo?
No, but I'm not saying the Yaya. I'm not saying anything like that. It could still go very wrong for him. Of course, I'm touching wood that it doesn't. But I'm just saying, you talked about composure, and I agree with you. There's certain positions where composure is more valued, I think, or more critical to your game. But I do think when you look at a young player, I think what separates or what shows the levels of the prospect or the potential of a young player is how mature, how high their football IQ is, how composed they are. And I think Saka...
It's part of what we said about Saliba, right? Back in the day, like he looks composed for somebody so young. I mean, it's what we say also, everyone says it about Evan Ferguson too, right? Like they were going big on Ferguson because he also doesn't start panicking, like for the most part. I don't know why.
But say that about Saka
more consistently. No, I mean,
say that about Saka. Saka's also looks very composed.
I get what you're talking about. I agree with you. I think Garnacho definitely could improve in that regard. I just thought like, for a centre back, for a centre midfielder, it makes more sense to me to be a bit more composed because you're going to see a lot more of the ball in that kind of calm-ish position. But when you're like having to attack somebody over and over again, run at defenders, typically there is a bit of mania that comes with that, right?
You need it.
I mean, like Martinelli is a good example of that too. Like he's just straight chaos, like Darwin Núñez things out here.
Well, let's not get into Darwin. But the point, though,
you don't want Darwin's name anywhere near this conversation of Mainoo and
get him out of here. This ain't the Liverpool podcast. But the point, though, final one on Mainoo is that they do require it. I agree with you. It should be expected. But my point is, at that young age, you don't always see it straight away. For most people, they develop it. It takes time. Like with Garnacho, I think he might eventually get it. Even with Cristiano, right? When we first got him, the reason why the Garnacho-Cristiano things come up is because there were some things that Garnacho is doing right now, stupid things that Ronaldo was doing too at the beginning. And then he ironed it out and he started to become more composed and then became like an assassin. And that's what the hope is with Garnacho. Obviously, he probably won't reach those levels, but you hope that he'll work that out. But for a midfielder, sure, you hope that they get it sooner, but you don't see many 18-year-old midfielders have it, like almost immediately. The same way you don't see many, I don't know, when Saliba is like 20 when he played for you guys, but he was out on loan for a bit and he never played for you properly. Premier League, new level, he just took to it like a duck in water, right? Like, and that's a sign that a player really has that mental side of it, which can sometimes be the thing that is the thing that tips you over into being a really good player. So let's see. People are going way too early on it, but we have to put a bit of Mainoo chat. He scored a disgusting goal to win it in the last
I think
minute,
it's great.
So.
I want him not to get all the Man United pressure because that typically goes against someone becoming good. And as much as I don't want a Man United player to be good, I do like to see good young kind of English players come through. I'm happy to see him get into a team and actually get a chance. I just don't want you guys to just not even overdo it, but just like put too much pressure on his back, because that's when you start getting into territories of like kind of like Rashford, right? He's been your talisman, relied on him a lot, and sometimes it's a lot for a young player to do. And I know obviously Rashford's not young anymore, but at the time he was. So anyway, we'll leave that alone because obviously we're an hour in and we haven't even talked about the great mighty Arsenal. Well, let's talk about that then. Nottingham Forest away, 2-1 to the Arsenal. Got a bit hairy in that last 10 minutes. Yeah, no, I'm somehow getting things right when it comes to Arsenal, but everything else wrong. So Cunha, I'm still sorry to you, mate. South Korea and Japan, you guys are letting me down in different ways. But generally speaking, that Arsenal game, I didn't manage to watch it live. First half was just a lot of just, it was like
that stunk. That
I mean, like it was like we get into decent-ish positions and then just nothing comes from it. It was very frustrating to watch. I can't even say we had a big chance. It was like we got maybe 30% of the build-up done well, and then from there it just kind of fell like a house of cards. So that stank. But obviously, second half, he stuck with the same kind of team for the first 25-ish minutes, and before he started making really big changes, and something kind of just changed, right? And obviously, Gabriel Jesus had a great game up front. He really kind of switched it on in that second half, linking up really well with the rest of our players. Some good goals seen. Obviously, I really like the link-up play of the Gabby Jesus to Saka goal and then the right foot shovel that he does every now and then. He looks like he's never used his right foot before, but somehow keeps scoring with it. I really don't understand how that is happening. I almost feel like it's because people can see that he's not natural with it, and he just manages to get it off in a Salarish type way where it's like at a weird time. Like it's weird timing, no one's set for it, and he somehow manages to shovel it past someone. But I thought that was a good goal. And then obviously the Jesus goal, I don't know how the goalkeepers let that in. Matt Turner, sit down, son.
Stinks.
But obviously I'm loving seeing Jesus kind of run through, run from the side. It's obviously nice to see. Kind of reminds me a little bit of that bloody Walcott goal ages ago where he like climbed through people's legs and then just like shinned it into the back of the net somehow. But yeah, can't really complain too much about getting goals. Don't have to always be pretty. But then just stupid stuff, man. Like long ball from, I think it was Danilo, left-footed, slapped one up to, I think it might have been Chris Wood at the time, or maybe Nico Williams, can't remember who it was. They just head it across the goal. Saliba kind of runs for it, not set. Awani is obviously a man mountain, just dashes him off the ball. Saliba goes flying into the corner flag, and somehow it bounces up off of somebody's shin onto their and into the perfect bloody path of Awani, and then he obviously just slots it home. So that started just getting on my nerves because obviously I wanted to keep a clean sheet. I wanted it as much as I predicted a 2-1 victory. I didn't want us to actually get into that, last 5-10 minutes type of thing where we start scrambling again, especially not at Nottingham Forest ground, because that's where they will get people up for it and they could easily go and get a goal back. They've got huge people. Imagine getting a corner, conceding the corner against them in the last minute, and they've got Chris Wood coming up. They've got bloody Murillo. They've got, all of these man mountain kind of players. Like you could have Awani. It's just not on. And with bloody David Raya and his inability to actually move on a corner because he just gets packed out into his net, it can get really sticky. So overall, very disappointed that we keep doing that. And we keep letting late goals in and not putting things to bed. I want us to get 3 goals up and then we can start coasting and doing whatever else we're doing, but not at 2-0, man. There's too much that can happen. We've done it to other teams too, right? Where we come back with that kind of smaller margin. We just need to put teams to bed and move on, but we just still can't seem to do it. So I'm kind of in two minds on like how I feel about this game, because obviously good play, good link up, great performance from Jesus. Happy to see Emil Smith-Rowe back in the team. Defenders weren't terrible. All of that's good. But then you just go and ruin it in the last 10, 15 minutes and make me nervous again watching the bloody highlights even though I know the result of the game, I'm still nervous when I'm watching the highlights. So, from that point of view, I don't know how to take it. But well, yeah, what did you make of the game? Were you obviously you weren't as nervous as me, but do you feel similarly frustrated by it?
I mean, the first half was abysmal. Like, honestly, I was so tempted to just turn off the TV after that first half and just come back and see what the second half was saying and highlights, because having to sit through that, it was basically like a United game of earlier in the season. It was just absolutely shocking. Just both teams, like Nottingham Forest didn't look like they were up for it. The players, like the stadium was rocking again. Like, I don't know, man. The City Ground might be that place. It might actually be that place in English football to go and watch a game. Especially if they're playing a big team. I think the crowd just gets up for it, and it just stinks of heritage. You know what I mean? So big up all of the Nottingham Forest fans for that. But the game on the field, Forest were just camped in their own half. You guys were moving it so slowly, no punch, no intent to do anything. You may have had more of the ball, but it meant F all because you weren't doing it. It's Louis van Gaal football, to be honest, back when we had him. Just have the ball, pass it sideways, backwards, and do nothing with it, and no attacking intent whatsoever. Second half, I actually think it started off kind of similarly. You were fizzing it around a bit better, but it still didn't look great until that one Jesus goal where he somehow shimmies and gets through a bunch of players. He's got no right to score from that angle. So Matt Turner, honestly, don't know how he's still a Premier League goalie. Don't know why you even bought him like last season and had him in your squad. I think Runnison was better than him. You remember that crappy goalie you bought, Runnison, the Icelandic guy? He's better than Matt Turner.
Hey, we could get Vito Minoni back, and I'd be bloody happier with that than Matt Turner.
Exactly. All the goalies that you've bloody sacked off in the last 10, 15 years are doing better than him. You've had Fabianski, Chesney plays for Juve now, Minoni. All of these dons could play in the Premier League before Matt Turner. He stinks, man. I don't know how he's the US. That shows the US team stinks as well. Obviously, if he's their goalie. But yeah, somehow lets it through his legs. Not only does he let it through his legs, but I don't think he was actually fully on target until it hits his ankle and then goes in. So I think Jesus probably got a bit lucky to actually get that goal. Normally the dubious goals Dons are pretty miserly. They take it away and give it to an OG. But yeah, I think that changed the game because then afterwards Forest had to come out a little bit. They couldn't just sit on, the edge of their penalty area and defend deep anymore. They actually had to make it, have a go of it. And I think once that happened, that was prime for you guys. It's something that you've actually looked decent at in the last couple of weeks, along with the set pieces, is catching teams on the counter. I think having Gabby Jesus, Martinelli, Saka in that sort of space with the balls over the top, playing with a bit of space in between lines, you're actually getting to see a little bit somewhat similar kind of levels to last season from those guys. When the teams sit deep, it's a bit hard. I don't think they have the technical abilities to get through and create stuff out of nothing. But when you get them running backwards, I think they were in trouble. And there was a couple of moments beyond the Saka goal, which I thought he took really well. I agree with you. The technique is all over the shop on his right foot. He doesn't know what he's going to do. But I actually think that helps him. I actually honestly believe that the defenders don't know.
Off guard. Yeah.
I think he might know what he's trying to do, but I don't think he can guarantee the execution is going to actually be exactly what he wants in his mind on his right foot. But the defenders have no clue. The goalie's completely sold. He doesn't know what's coming. So I think it's actually it's actually something he should try and take shots more on his right foot, because I actually think sometimes he cuts back an extra time when he doesn't need to and just have a go. Just swing at it and see what happens, because I think he's got good enough
vibes out here. Just flipping shovel it from any direction, man.
But he's obviously practiced enough with his right foot that it might look all over the shop and be very hard to read, but there's got to be some form of consistency with it. So I just say swing at it. You're a good enough player. You're up playing in the Premier League for one of the best players in the league. You should be able to have a weak foot that's going to give you a decent enough contact more times than not. So, that was a really good goal, good counter. And then, it looked really comfortable. It looked like you were just going to see the goal out and I was going to get my prediction right. And then, a bit of a shambolic defensive, I wouldn't say performance for the last 10 minutes, because I do think it was isolated to a few incidents where you looked a bit sloppy. It wasn't overall. But Zinchenko, Saliba, not their greatest moment. not the finest moment. I understand why Ben White was on Zinchenko's ass afterwards, or they were arguing afterwards, because
he doesn't even go up for anything, man. He just kind of just leaves it for someone else to do. I'm just thinking, mate, you realise you can use your head in this game, right? It's like playing five aside, at goals where, like, if it goes overhead height, you just have to stop playing. It becomes a free kick. He just thinks nothing's going to happen.
Yeah. It's you got to understand what your opponent's strengths are, especially if you're a defender, right? Because you're basically playing a reactive game. You have to react to what they're doing when they attack. And Zinchenko doesn't seem to have those instincts. We talked about it. We're not going to get back into the convo about him because you know how I feel about him. But yeah, he didn't do well. And then Saliba was a bit naive, to be honest. I just think he got sold, and he got outstrengthed by if that's even a word. But he just got muscled out of the ball by Awoniyi. And
which is, again,
yeah.
I'm not going to hold that against him.
There's no shame.
Awoniyi is an absolute tank, but at the same time, he had a defender in front of him. Right, he could have just let Gabriel maybe deal with it, stay tight to the man. Because knowing Awoniyi, no offense to him at all, he's very physical, but at the same time, he's not got the feet of Messi out here, right? He's not going to be able to get around you and get off you that quickly. So it wasn't necessary to try and go for the ball. And at that time, when you're a little bit off balance and Awoniyi's set, you're getting sent into Rosette, mate. It doesn't matter if you're Gabriel, if you're Gabriel, if you're Saliba, if you're, I don't care, if you're bloody, Adarabioyo. It doesn't matter who you are. You're getting sent to the shops, right? So that was it was a bit naive to try and go for that. He should have just let Gabriel deal with it and just stay tight to the man.
Yeah, no, but I don't think it was. I don't think we talked about clangers and calamities earlier when we were talking about Maguire and Onana and those guys. It wasn't that level. It was naivety, and sadly for him, it led to a goal, which then put you guys under the cosh for the last little bit of the game. But are you happy with how you guys kind of saw it through? Because I don't think it was super sticky, but you had a couple of moments where you really had to dig deep. Are you happy that you managed to come through with the 3 points? Because really, that's all that matters, right? Forest is a hard place.
Yeah,
to go.
of course, right? I'm happy to get through the 3 points. But I've been begging to just see us play well and to be dominant, and we showed it for like a couple of games. And now it's back to struggle asshole times. And that doesn't make me feel good when we got Liverpool to play tomorrow. So, I wish this was a convincing 2-0 or a convincing 3-0 or something like that. But the fact that we're doing this again and showing defensive frailties, as much as, we got through the game, it shows the next teams that you play, like, you can get at them lot. And it changes the way that they play. It changes the mentality that they come at you with. And Liverpool didn't even need that change because they're going to come at us, like a bloody steam train. So, yeah, I'm happy to get the 3 points. Obviously, if we were sat here and it was a 2-2 or something, I'd be absolutely livid and I'd be going off. But it doesn't fill me with a whole bunch of confidence for what's about to happen tomorrow. So again, the way I can describe it is I'm in two minds. Like, I'm happy to get the 3 points. Maybe I'm just being a bit greedy. I want it to be perfect all the time, but we're going to have to be perfect all the time to get anything from this season. And that wasn't a perfect performance.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't think it's really the greediness. I just think it's the anxiety. You've obviously got a big game coming, right? So you kind of want it to go smooth. You want it to go smoothly as possible, but you got to look at it in a positive way. I would say, like, Forest, they're not the greatest team, but at home they're going to give teams a real run for their money. And they put you under a little bit of pressure, and teams like mine even can fold under that little bit of pressure. We do it all the time. And you guys, I do think there's been a lot of moments throughout the season where you haven't necessarily played the best, but you've managed to show that mental strength and that, what was it The Rock used to say? Testicular fortitude. You're showing that real, you're showing cojones, man. And
what did
I think
Troy Deeney used to say? Yeah, I was about to say cojones. That's the Troy Deeney one. Yeah.
Troy Deeney, the manager for like 6 or 7 games.
Forest Green Rovers just dissing all of his players. Runs on Mourinho, but without any of the experience or like the pain that Mourinho has had to go through.
Yeah, no trophies, no coaching badges, just
no grey hair,
playing experience and vibes, just cussing everyone, saying they're all rubbish and whatever. Like, big up Troy Deeney though. That was probably one of the funniest little like 6 or 7 game managerial stints I've ever I've ever read
It's
about.
a great
or
way
seen.
to go out. If I had to choose just 7 games of being a manager, that's the best way to go out. You don't want to go out like Gary Neville out here.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see. I don't know if it's going to be great for his career afterwards because there's a lot of public stuff going out there. Not too many chairmen are going to be too excited to get him on their side unless you get a loony one. But yeah, I think you've got to be happy with the result. I understand the performance. Like I said, the two halves were so different, but I think there's valid reasons for it, right? Like I think the first half was quite hard to get any space, but I don't think you guys helped yourselves. And then I think in the second half, that little bit of magic from Jesus changed the whole game, and then I think it made it more comfortable for you. But it's gonna be a tougher test because I think the game against Liverpool is gonna be like that second half for the whole game, and they've got much more threat going the other way than a Forest do, right? Like they've got threat.
Perfect opportunity to get into the predictions, son. So United,
segue.
West Ham, and Arsenal, Liverpool. We'll start with the Arsenal, Liverpool, mate. So us at home. I wish that filled me with more confidence, but based off of what you just said, I think it's gonna be a high-scoring game. Right, we are defensively frail. They are attackingly unbelievable, but at the same time, they can also be. You can get at them too. And I think with the quality of our attack, I think we could definitely get at them. So I don't know about you, mate, but I'm going for a 2-2. I'm going for a Desmond.
I actually think you're going to win. I think Arsenal are going to win 2-1. And the reason why is because I actually think you guys played all right against Liverpool in that FA Cup game. I really think you were unlucky, man.
We were.
And you were unlucky / wasteful. And I'm so used to a team being wasteful. My team is wasteful every single week.
Even out here.
Exactly. Waste connoisseur. Going to all of the local councils' waste removal centres and just checking them all out. Manny's got a beautiful fans.
The bin men. The bin men.
Yeah, the bin men. Since I'm a bin man, I know exactly what that's like. But I expect you guys to. You slapped Palace 5-0. You scored a couple goals against Forest. I think you're picking up a bit of steam, building up a bit of steam around your attack. And I don't think they're going to catch life like they did in the last game at the Emirates when it comes to you guys missing chances. And I think in these big games, the key is whoever scores first. It always is. Like, it's very rare that a team scores first and doesn't win the game or at least get a draw out of the game. So I think you guys will strike first. I wouldn't be surprised if Liverpool equalise, but I think that you'll then strike again and get the W. And I think it's actually a great result for the title race. It'll bring Liverpool back closer to you and Man City, and I think it'll be what you guys deserve. I think it'd be very harsh if you play Liverpool 3 times in a season and you don't win, because I think you probably deserve to beat them at Anfield. Although I know, Trent managed to hit the bar and screw that up on the counter, but I think you guys were really good against them for the most part. I don't think you deserve to lose in the FA Cup game, maybe draw it. So I think it would be very, very harsh if you came out of the 3 fixtures without a victory. So I'm going to back you guys to get the job done. 2-1 Arsenal. Come on, you Gunners, yeah.
Yeah, Gunners, yeah. All right, no, I'll take your positivity because I'm not filled with any. Let's get on to the United West Ham game. We've got the Bubbles FC, or Fairy Liquid FC as they call them, visiting Old Trafford. I don't know what run of kind of form West Ham have been on. I did see a little clip of Calvin Phillips' beautiful debut for them, where he just kind of lets a goal in or leads to a goal. What do you fancy of your chances against Fairy Liquid FC, mate?
I'm going to be absolutely losing my marbles if we don't beat them, because if
Moisey back at his old fighting grounds, mate.
That away fixture hurt me, man. We were on the train, remember, going into London and watching that game. We had so many chances and half chances in that first half. Should have been a goal up. Wasteful play. And then second half, it was an absolute rubbish goal. I think Bowen shanked one in, bounced up and went over Onana. He obviously flapped at it and missed it. And then, Kobbie Mainoo lets the ball slip under his foot and Kudus kills us. We didn't deserve to lose that game. and West Ham didn't have to play well to win it. So we owe them one, man. We need to absolutely stick it on West Ham and just remind them we're the big Uniteds out here, right? Stick West Ham back down in their box with Newcastle, two smelly Uniteds. We're the United. You can't be singing "You've Seen United and F off home." That's our song, all right? West Ham and Newcastle. I heard you Pillock singing it on the TV the other day, and I'm not having it. I'm not having people steal our songs. I heard a City fan.
You're the lowest out of all of those, though, by the way. Out of the Uniteds, I mean, there's only Sheffield United that are lower than you, mate. So you might be the stinkiest of your Uniteds.
No. The Newcastle is only because they're playing now. They're a game ahead of us. We were ahead of them.
Yeah. I'll let you have that.
It's probably on goal difference as well because we've got minus still. But West Ham, I think if we win this, we're above them as well. So we will be rightfully the top United if we beat them, which we should be. I'm bloody clutching at straws talking about the best United. This is like when Chelsea are talking about being the best team in West London, isn't it? When they're buying Brentford and Fulham. But we have to win. I don't want to see a 1-0. Oh, I'll take a 1-0 or a 2-1, but I want us to really give them a whacking. So I'm going to go for 3-1, Man United.
Oh,
I think we'll give them a good tonking.
I'm gonna go for a 2-1 United. I think you'll beat them, but I don't see you tonking them up. They've still got really good quality players, right? And Kudus is back, so that's not fun for you guys. They've got big Calvin Phillips, old McDonald's himself. Ronald McDonald,
he's rubbish.
He is rubbish, but
he's rubbish.
Man City, maybe the Man City rivalry, the Manchester rivalry have rubbed off on him, and he'll come out here and show that. No, I know, but I mean, maybe just from osmosis, just from being on the bench, it's seeped into his veins. Who knows?
He's played for Leeds. So.
Yeah, no, I know.
He played for Leeds. Leeds hate us as well.
He's got two different reasons to hate you. On top of the fact that you just are very easy to hate. But yeah, I'm going to go for a 2-1. I think it will be squeaky, though. I think it will be like maybe a 1-0, 1-0, and then like a late 2-1. I think Kobbie Mainoo might come up with another one for you, lads.
Prospect.
The hottest prospect in the whole of the Premier League right there. If he scores another winner, he's going to get into world-class territory, I'm sure, for you guys.
He's going to be knocking on the door. The key word of the podcast, and for all Man United fans online, X or content creation, just hold back and just use the word prospect. That's how we keep ourselves in check. We can say he's all of these things are, but just remember to say he's a prospect. Don't go out here and say Yaya or Makalele or Kante or whatever else rubbish I've seen on
I don't want to hear Wonder Kid yet. Just give it a minute, lads.
He's a wonder kid. Come on.
He's a wonder kid.
The bar for wonder kids low. Who have we seen?
But you're doing like a football manager wonder kid. You're looking at a list of like 25,000 players and saying, they've all got like a potential, so they're all wonder kids. So that's okay. All right, fine. Yeah. I'm using a different definition of wonder kid, but I'll allow you.
Well, who goes by your wonder kid then? Who's under your wonder kid definition?
Endrick. I'm talking like Mbappe in his youth, like the next big Ronaldo, Messi type Don. That's what I'm saying. But if you want to use Wonder Kid to just mean he might be a good player for you, then fair enough. No,
but I mean Wonder Kid DM, I've never heard of one, so I don't think positionally we really that criteria is a bit
Wonder
harsh,
Kid DM. Yeah, all right, but I'll allow you. Okay, fair enough. I
think he's a Wonder Kid. I think he's a Wonder Kid.
All right, fine, but just say it with with air quotes. Yeah, say it with air quotes on the side of it. That'll make me. Yeah, say it the German way. That'll be better. But anyway,
there you go. Yeah, Mainoo, yeah,
Wunderkind, yeah. But yeah, well, let's wrap it up there. It's obviously been it's been a good episode of talking about Rashford and his antics. Let's see what comes out of tomorrow's games, because I think that could be our next episode could be an absolute humdinger depending on what happens tomorrow. If we get battered and you lose, then it could be filled with bleeps. But thank you, Ant. As always, great talking to you. And we'll see you not even next week, but we'll see you in a couple of days, I'm sure, when we record the next ep.
Yeah, nice one. Cheers, everyone. Thanks, Jonts. See you soon.
Cheers.
Social Podcast Network.